Bryen, The Four Desires. This morning, David will be inviting us to ponder on the motivators that impel us towards human fulfillment. In his published books, his poetry, his love for wood, David has long been a voice working to awaken the sensations of the soul. He retired to Ahihit from his psychotherapy practice in 2012. He's raced sailboats, built his own house, been a lifetime motorcyclist, motorcycle safety instructor, master wood craftsman, and 5 years served as the coordinator of Open Circle.
Hi. It's good to see you guys here. How's the volume back there for you people? Hard of hearing back there? Okay. As I look out over the audience, I realize my wife was very wise this morning, as I've been preparing this talk for about 12 years, and she said, David, all the people here have passed that stage of longing. And I said, oh my gosh, that's really true, because most of us have achieved our wealth, most of us have achieved our retirement, most of us have arrived in paradise. And so I said, wow, you really kind of upset the whole apple cart here. Maybe I should be talking to 30-year-olds or 50-year-olds. And then I said, but I can save my ass if I say, the people here are all elders. And she asked her question and invited me to say, well, what do we as elders have to long for? So to start the thing off, this is a brand new idea. So it's at the top of my notes here in red. I said, let's introduce this by talking about the longing in us to become an elder, and what is it that we bring to the world? So that's the question. So I want to tell a story. Long, long time ago, King Arthur was out in his forest hunting, and he saw this magnificent white buck. And being the archer that he was, he followed it. He left his territory and went into another territory and pulled back his arrow and shot this magnificent white buck. And out of the woods comes this huge, monstrous man and say, King Arthur, I've wanted you all my life. I'm going to kill you. You have crossed into my territory and you have killed my sacred deer. You owe me your life. Whoops. So the King Arthur says, but are you not a sporting man? He says, okay, I'm a sporting man. You come back here a year and a day with the answer to this riddle, and if you get it right, I'll save your life. King says, give it to me. Give it to me hard. Give it to me strong. He says, above all else, what is it that a woman requires most? Of course, it being a king wasn't a very important question, except for to save his life. So, before we go on in the story, I want you to know that in fairy tales and myths, they're symbols for something. So we want to get out of what is it that a girl or a woman or that you as a female gender want, and think about what is the story trying to get at. So I'm asking the question of you, above all else, what is it that the human being desires most? Okay, that's parenthetical. Back to the story. So King Arthur, being wise, he jumped forward to 2023 and came to America. And he read Bertrand Russell's speech, Nobel Peace, when he accepted the Nobel Peace Prize in 1950. And Russell said there are 4 drives that drive all human behavior. Okay, you can write these down if you want. The first one was acquisitiveness, or the desire to acquire more and more things. He said the second thing was rivalry, that human beings seem to be organized around the drive to be the best, to be the winner. And then he said, the third one is human beings desire vanity. They want to look good, be good, get good grades. They want to be the top of the pile. And the fourth thing he said was love of power. So the king read that article and said, well, that's a good start. I'll go. He had a bunch of his guys and said, okay, you guys go into the malls. You guys go into the race courses. You guys go to the beauty shows, and you guys go to the political scene, and let's find out which of these four humans desire most. So you can imagine the first group goes to the Mall of America, coming from England back in the who knows how long ago. My God, what did they see? They saw things upon things upon things upon things that they wanted to do. They went to Amazon.com, and that's how they could get whatever they wanted, shipped to wherever they wanted through Amazon.com. They went to real estate brokers and saw the magnitude of houses that people could buy. They went to housing developments and saw all the houses possible. They went to boat yards. They went to new car lots. They went to markets across the world, from the indigenous markets all the way to the Mall of America. They went to jewelry stores, and they saw that on the internet you can buy anything you want to buy. So they came back and they said, no problem. We know people want peace, people want happiness, people want health, people want safety, people want to gather things. So they came back to the king and says, we think acquisitiveness is the strongest drive of what people desire most. So they went back to Bertrand and they said, well, let's see if that's right. So King Arthur sent a bunch of other people to the race courses. They saw that in every major city there were these huge coliseums, huge venues for basketball, football, baseball. They went to the Olympics and saw that people were trying to be the best, the fastest, the largest, the strongest, the most beautiful. They went to beauty pageants, and they saw that what they saw in the world was that across the world there is this huge desire to be the best. They went to motorcycle races, they went to car races, and they saw that everything was there for them to find that indeed the competition to be best was across the board. All cultures had these competitions, whether they were dancers, beauticians, whatever. They wanted to be the best. They watched the Oscars. They watched America's Got Talent. You know, they watched Super Bowl, World Cup soccer, and the goal was for the person to be the best. And they said, here, listen, people are looking for the GOAT. You know what G-O-A-T means? The greatest of all time. We want to find the greatest athletes, the greatest car buyer, the greatest builders, the greatest designer, the most beautiful woman in the world. We want to find that. So they came back, and they said to the king, indeed, we think rivalry is one of the strongest desires. So we think rivalry is what people desire most. Well, you get into rivalry, and then you get to this idea of vanity. And saw how many people were driven by this desire to feed the ego, to be what they are. People wanted to write books. People wanted to do art. People wanted to show themselves. They wanted to dress fancy. The beauty contests of the world. They wanted the muscle builders, the muscle guys doing the muscle things. You know? And they came back to the king and they said it really is the desire for vanity that drives the human being. Now, none of us are there, I understand. They went around and they saw that women were cutting their bodies to make themselves look adorable. Men were tattooing themselves, sculpting their bodies because of the desire. So people running marathons and ruining their bodies to be seen as, the Bible calls it vaingloriousness, that the desire to be. Now, I don't want to present these things as bad, but as they're trying to figure out what it is that drives human beings. Because if King Arthur doesn't answer the riddle, he loses his life. You've got to figure this out. So then they went to the political arena, said, no, it is the drive for power. The need for power drives humankind. They went back and they saw all the wars. All the wars were this desire to be powerful, for the one to be the top, to be the most powerful. Intellectual contests, to be the strongest. We looked at certain political persuasions, and they saw that politicians, to a person, were hungry for power. And so as I was thinking of this topic, I was thinking, well, these people aren't hungry for power here, except all my friends want to be powerful. They wish they were the kings of the world because they have an answer to what would solve the world's problems. I mean, how many of us don't think that we could do better than some of our politicians? I think some of us think we might be able to do more. But what's there in the human psyche, they dove into that. They saw that this love of power. Look what we do. We try to find the beginning of the universe. We want to control the power of the atom. We want to control power over people. That this drive for human beings to bring the world into subservience, to be powerful over the world, is just really there. So they came back to the king, and they said, "Listen, Americans or people have tamed electricity, they've tamed rivers, they've tamed gravity, they've got these skyscrapers going over there, but mankind really is indeed driven by the love of power." Now, the king said, "Okay, we got to figure this out." But he couldn't. So he came to David and said, "David, above all else, what is it that women desire most?" I said, "I have no clue." And I want to say here that I hope I don't give you any answers to that question, because I do not know what it is that humans desire most. But what happened to me, before I get there, and this is a freebie. I was on the internet and I read this idea, and it's so powerful and so important that it doesn't fit inside this lecture at all. And the article was the most important and powerful word in the English language. I don't want to give it to you and just talk about it for a second. And it doesn't fit inside the lecture, but I have to give it because people got to know this. The most powerful word, and it's really operational today, is because. Every political problem, every social problem, everybody is looking for the because of life. And this article said that if you can give someone an adequate because, you can control them. And I want to say to us that one of the most hidden words in our language, in our thinking, is we do not even see the word because. Why are you here today? Because what? Why do you drive fast? Because. Why do you drive this car? Because. Why do you like Phil? Because. Why do you don't like Phil? Because. There's always a because. And because that little phrase, it hides the belief system that's underneath it. And if people can give an adequate because to any problem you have, you can control them. And I just want to say, if we look at our political spectrum that we're all sort of riled up about now, if you look at that political spectrum and find the because, people are giving a because an answer to solve the problems of the world. It has nothing to do with King Arthur, but it's something that I want to drop in because I'm so fascinated by how often because drops away from our vision and makes sense of the world because it's that way. So we can talk about that later. What happened to me, to give you a brief story of my own life, is that starting back in 1988 when a heron died in my arm, I walked into this time of life where my life was flooded with synchronistic experiences. I was open to a whole new world of experience, like waking up in the world, and it was filled with mystical understandings and experiences. I've written about those and talked about those some. And so I call it my initiation that began in '88, 10 years of thousands and thousands and thousands of dreams. And in the dreams there was this kind of portal into a source of wisdom that was not from me. It would deliver things to me, it would deliver language to me. And so as I was going through that very, very dissolving time where everything about what I knew before went away and I was awash with feelings and synchronistic things that I couldn't understand and couldn't comprehend, the only thing I could do was to write poetry. I would sit in my cabin in my deck and I would write poetry. And so, long story short, I ended up in Australia 2 times in '92 and in '98. And when I got there, the feminine voice came to me and said, I want you to take the poems that you've written, and I want you to use the 16 koans I've given you to organize those poems. So I went back, and she showed me a grid, 4x4, 16 different koans. And those of you who are familiar with Buddhist thought, they know that koans are things to contemplate that you can't figure out. They're there to draw you into contemplation. You don't get an answer. You chew on them and cook them. Well, I was given 16. The first night of those koans, I was given 3 that I remembered. I saw the picture in the dream, and I was given 3. And then over the next 6 months, those grids were filled in. This is the next one, this is the next one, and this is the next one. So, what came to me so completely was this voice, this information from some other realm that is not created by me. So what I can say here is I can tell you a couple of these koans and experiences, and they're not my ideas. I'm just the vessel to say what that was. I've worked on them, I've chewed on them, I've written about them, I've tried to define what they mean, but they're not my ideas. So you can disagree, and my ego won't be offended at all. It's my ideas, I'd be pissed off if you disagree. But because they're not my ideas, I don't have to defend them. I'll just give them as I understand them. So, it's King Arthur wanting information about what is it that a human being desires most. And the first one that I'll talk about is this koan. All longing is a barter. Doesn't make any sense, does it, at all? It shouldn't. What? Repeat it. All longing is a barter. A barter. Now, barter assumes that I have something, and you have something, and you have something that I want, and I'm going to exchange it for something that you want. So we have 2 consciousnesses here trying to make sense of each other. And the koan said that all longing is an exchange for something that I do not know yet. So there's this gap between what I long for, and it's reflective of what the other side longs for. Now, I personally have a really difficult time figuring out what to call that world. Sometimes I call it the unseen world. Sometimes I call it the collective unconscious. Sometimes I talk about it as Holy Spirit. Sometimes I talk about it as the mystery. I don't know what to call it. I haven't been given a name. Thanks, Floyd. So I don't have to defend it. All that I've been aware of is that over the years of my initiation and my work, my dreams have been the avenue through which information comes that is not of my creation. And there are just hundreds and hundreds of things that came. Most of the poetry of my book came from that side to this side, and I just was there to record what was given. So I was often given a line or an image that I would take, and then I was to fill it out to bring a human texture to whatever was said. The koans were there. So in my poetry book, I wrote this, and I want to quote it because I find that when I was writing the book, I was a better writer than I am now. There's a way in which you get in that groove where something on the other side lines up with what my human body does. So I wrote, all longing is an exchange with other beings. Well, how many of us want to see an animal? How many of us go to the beach to see a whale? How much of us want to see something, experience something in nature or whatever it is? So I wrote, all longing is an exchange with other beings. Longing, hunger, thirst, and desire are all exchanges. There is a sacred dimension in all of our hungers. Inside or on the other side of our longing is the desirousness of spirit. Again, that word, I don't know how to define that. Is the desires of the other world, of spirit, of what spirit longs for. To think that spirit longs for something in me. Put your word on it. If you're not uncomfortable with spirit, the other side, the unknown, the unseen, the mystery, call it what you want. But there's something in that unseen, unknown part that longs for something. We understand human relationships. We understand in human relationships that desire responds to the call from another person. But it's harder to comprehend that the sacred spirit, the other world, wherever it is just as desirous of our attention as we are of it. Why in the hell were we created? Whose idea was it? How did it happen? What was it there that takes these molecules and draws them into what we have and experience here today? So to comprehend that the sacred is just desirous of our attention as we are of it. Desire ignites desire. And there is a reciprocal relationship as both a cross and a bridge, a cross to bridge the distance to each other. If we can, this is what I wrote, if we can establish the sacred dimension in all of our hungers, then we can develop it. We can develop a sense of what spirit longs for inside our longings for it. Why? Look at every theology we have. We have the other side, every myth, every religion has the idea of the other side trying to reach to this side. It needs something from us, maybe. So this idea that all longing is a barter invites us into that. The mystery being that two incompletenesses require each other. Our incompleteness is a mirror of its incompleteness, whatever the it is. So the image here is of two of two incompletenesses drawing towards each other, as if there's some sort of, in our longings, there's some sort of desire from somewhere for us to seek it. If that wasn't there, we wouldn't, the idea is that I don't create my desire. My desires are given to me because something desires me. How many of you, you don't have to raise your hand if you don't want to be embarrassed, but how many of you have ever had an experience where something that was outside of you came and inspired you? You don't need to raise your hand. Many people, if you talk underneath it, they will have experiences where they got information from somewhere that was not from them. And it shocks them and it wakes them up, and if they have integrity, they'll chew on it. So where did that idea come from? So there are lots of becauses. It's because of. We'll fill on it. It's because God did it, because the Holy Spirit did it. It's because I ate too many French fries. There's not enough, too much gas, kind of thing. But there's always that idea that there's something in the because working for us. How many others of you have encountered someone, maybe like me or Pravina, or have encountered someone who has experienced so much that they just ooze it. You can't be around them long before you know that something, you may not have had that vision, that experience, but you know that they have. You see it in their demeanor, in the way they carry themselves, in the way they write. That maybe, if you haven't experienced something from the other side, crossing into this one, you might want to talk to them. Because there are many people who have these experiences. We were talking in my dream group the other day, a book that I've wanted to write for years. I want to gather stories called Ordinary Mystics, and have people who have had these mystical experiences that are not validated or reinforced by the understanding of our culture, to make a recording, to record all the stories of people who have these mystical, odd, weird experiences that they've just written off because they ate too much pizza, To gather, and I'll tell you, there are people I can look at people here and see many people here that I know I've talked to have had experiences where something mystical has happened. They don't know what to do with it because there's no definition for it. So, the other question I would ask you is, how many of you, again, you don't have to answer this, how many of you are living with a deep longing? A lot of us are trying to live with this deep sense of longing. We were just talking before we got up here with my friends in the front row there about the longing to be an elder. Some of us have information that we want to give to the younger people. Some of us have a longing to write our memoirs, feeling that we have something that we must give back to the world. That's a longing too. Where does that longing come from? And the other, there's lots to say. Always my problem with speaking is I have notes that I take months to create, and when I get up here, it starts to flow, and I never get through what I wanted to say. So there's lots there more we could talk about. But I want to talk about the next koan. This experience is similar to what I've been saying already, and that koan said, desire comes from outside the body. So when you get these kind of statements, like any of you have these dreams where you get these sort of profound statements that you know are profoundly true somewhere, but they don't make any sense? Any of you have those things? Some people do, where they experience something that's so meaningful and so profound. Psychotic people, like Most of us are. Psychotic people have those pronouncements all the time, but they believe them. Those of us who have an ego, they can say, well, I got this idea, now what do I do with it? Have an ego, you can work with it. If you don't have an ego, you become, many of us have dreams of being magicians or special or magic people. And look around, that's not me. They believe it, they get in trouble. But there's something in that. So there's something out there that's trying to manifest itself in me. So this, William Blake said, desire is holy. What if we were to take that desire is holy and realize that the desire comes from that other, whatever that other side is. And if we deified it, we made it sacred. We said, I have been given access to something absolutely critical to the world through my desire. Another story I'll tell. There's a wonderful book called The Never-Ending Story by Michael Ende. Do any of you know that story? Good. I can slaughter it and you'll never know the difference. Basically, the story is about Bastian, a young boy who was given an amulet as he goes into the other world. It's kind of like C.S. Lewis's Chronicles of Narnia, where he goes into the other world and meets other beings, like most fantasies we have. Well, Bastian was given an amulet, and on the back of the amulet it said, "Do whatever you wish." So he went to the other world and he meets with this powerful lion called Grogamon. And so Bastian goes to Grogamon and says, I've been given this. It says, do what you wish. And he says, what do you suppose this means? Do whatever you wish. That must mean I can do anything I feel like, right? Don't you think so? At once, Grogamon's face looked alarmingly grave and his eyes glowed and thumped his tail. No, he said in a deep voice. It means that you must do what you really and truly want. And nothing is more difficult. What? What I really and truly want? What do you mean by that? It's your own deepest desire, your own deepest secret, and you yourself don't know it. How can I find out? By going the way of your wishes, from one to another, from first to last, it will take you to what you really and truly want. That doesn't sound so hard, Bastian said. It's the most dangerous of all journeys. Why? I'm not afraid. That isn't it, Grogamon's rule. It requires the greatest honesty and vigilance because there's no other journey on which it is easy to lose yourself. And here's my secret thought. I think that culture is designed to hide that search. I think our culture offers us over and over and over again a distraction so that we don't have to do the deep introspection that makes us human. I love to go on Amazon and see what it is that I want next. I love to look at, I'm a motorcyclist, I've been a motorcyclist since I was this high. I love the idea of a new motorcycle, wouldn't that be cool? I love art, I love music. But what we don't get invited to very often is the desire to find out what it is underneath what I look for. And underneath that, when I used to do writing retreats back in the States, I'd take people out to my cabin and wake them up to do night work. I bought them all a lantern for their head, take them out by the fire, build a nice campfire, and had them write. And I would say, in the deep night, we call it night work. What is it that you really want? What is it that you really want to say? You write it and say, what is it underneath that? What is the desire underneath that? What is the real longing underneath all that stuff? Or what is it about? So, the koan, desire comes from outside the body, is this idea that there is something underneath each of us that's pulling for something. And as you leave here, I'll invite you to look at what are those longings about. But I was, in my dream life, one night I was sort of in one of the deeper, more scary times. And I heard Willie Nelson singing the song, "Help Me Make It Through the Night." And I was low energy and I was desperate. And I said, oh, what a wonderful, wonderful idea. I'll sing to the soul and say, help me make it through the night. And I got bitch slapped. And the dream says, I was singing that to you. I want you to help me through the night. It wanted my help. And our consumptive attitude towards life and spirit and God and all that stuff is that I want help, please help me. But something else is saying, you, David, help me through the night. I need you. What did I do with that? Well, it woke me up. It sort of reinforced this idea. I hope I don't sound too grandiose here. But that I am somehow necessary for the other side's growth, development, maturation. Leonard Cohen had this, the songwriter Leonard Cohen, he had this wonderful quote, and he said, these problems exist before we did. And we gather ourselves around them. That is what a human being is, a gathering around the perplexity. I'll say it again. These problems exist before us, and we gather ourselves around them. That's what a human being is a gathering around a perplexity. So what if part of what is driving these two incompletenesses together is this realization these things are there and that we have something to do with making that incompleteness. We're aware of our incompleteness, right? I am anyway. What if it's incomplete too, and it needs something of the human being to draw that together, to bring those together? So, one last dream, and then we'll go to questions. Not too long ago, I had a very, very powerful dream. Some of those dreams are just so visceral, you wake up in a sweat kind of thing. And in this dream, I grabbed God in his thick coat, grabbed it for him, and I just screamed in his face. I said, you didn't give me enough. I had to do it all alone. My parents died, and I didn't have any money. I was poor. Went through all this stuff. You didn't give me enough. And I was furious, arrogant. I was just saying, just raw fury. And guess what God did? He grabbed me by the throat and says, you didn't give me enough either. And I live with that reality. But there's something here in us as human beings that needs to change our perspective from always feeding off of what the world gives us. And that we have something to give back to it. And my whole talk here is to invite you to ask the question of yourself, above all else, what is it that my soul desires most? And I'm convinced, this is where belief comes in, that's the fact. The belief is that I believe that if more of us did that and held that truth that we are here as human beings to do something to heal the world, to become something in the world that we're not yet, that responding to that deep need, that deep call, if we can deify our longing and say, okay, I want a new car. Cool. Why? Well, I can go out there and I can beat all the other cars in the drag race. Or I can have people look and say, wow, you really polished that car, really looks nicer. And you're so wise to buy a good economical car. If I get, well, what's underneath that? What's underneath that? I may find that the soul is asking me to reflect, through my longings back to the world, that the soul wants your attention. The soul of the world needs your attention, needs my attention, needs my attending to it. I love the quote from Lourdes that says, "Attend me, hold me in your muscular, flowering arms. Do not let me give any part of myself away again." And so what I'm saying here, that what King Arthur needed to tell Sir Cormajon, what the answer was, he needs to say, the soul's kind of hungry. I have no idea how or why some people dream and some don't. I can give you an idea maybe, but I don't know that. All that I really know is what I've experienced and the potency of the encounters that I have had in the dream world. I think I'm one of those rare individuals who, without mentorship from outside, other than the work of Carl Jung and his psychology, who has been completely initiated by the dream. You know, it's been that way ever since I moved to Portland in 1979. The dreams have led the way. The dream is my teacher. Now, and that's not true for everybody. Our world is built to distract us from the deep things. Right? That's one of my opinions anyways, that our world, TV, I mean, there's so much to read and know and gather and experience that there's so many gurus to go to and people to go to that I can find and not do the inner work. What is it? What does my soul desire most? What does God require? Whatever. God language is not, the language isn't important. The concept is that there's something other than us that's trying to bring something through us into this reality we live in day to day. My experience is that once I experience the hundreds and hundreds of synchronistic experiences through the dream, I had to bow to the fact that cause and effect world doesn't work for me anymore. There's another agency working that I experienced through synchronicity. So I can only say what I know is that I have been the recipient of many magical experiences. I think Gospel according to David Bryen, whatever, is that we need to learn how to live in the koans, not in the because. Because life, to me, is a deep mystery that I must individually do my work to find out what it is that I must do. And if it's given to me, it's of no value unless I do something with what's given. So my experience with synchronicity says, you've got something to say to the world, or be in the world, not say, it's to be in the world, because you experience it. So you're doing it right. So it's to learn, if our culture could just learn to live in the ambivalence of life, rather than in the because. It's because of this or it's because of that. We would live in the say that life is a mystery. How can we attend to it and be real with what we have today, what we experience, rather than grabbing a because and hanging our life around a because. Culture is so much better. Happiness has become a commodity that you can go to a workshop and get if you do it right. We have to be careful about the longing for happiness and get underneath that and say, what is the happiness that I long for? My perspective is, let's just keep diving into it and say that there are so many ways, so many different people who have experienced so many different ways into the mystery. I have friends up here who have a whole different way into that than I do. Some people get it through their minds and get it through their dreams and get it through other experiences. But there are so many mysterious things happening out there, and that we'll gravitate to the ones that draw us. If it doesn't fit, don't wear it. So, thank you.
Thank you again, David. Thanks a lot.